me tell you about a friend. It's Craig LeBlanc, where the good times never end. Talking Parks and Rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
There was a bigger world out there, and the less it's about you, right, the more success you have. And that has kind of been it's hard for me. I'm a natural kind of a leader, and so you kind of make it about yourself. But I find that when I can not make it about me, it's more successful. And that's kind of been one of those overarching themes throughout my life. And it's one that I need to be reminded of constantly.
Welcome back to the Daily Parks and Rec Show, Leadership Series. In this episode, we're joined by Jay Brimhall, Director of Parks and Recreation for Kerrville, Texas. From a lifelong athlete and grant writer to a servant leader guiding his community through one of the most devastating flood events in Texas history, Jay shares what it truly means to lead when it's no longer about you. It's about your people. This conversation dives into humility, patience, perspective, and why parks and recreation professionals are often the first responders no one talks about. If you want real-world leadership lessons shaped by crisis, community, and courage, this is an episode you don't want to miss. Let's dive in.
All right, we are live again. This is Craig LeBlanc with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. I have a special guest, Jay. Is it Brimhall?
Brim of a hat, hall of a building, my man.
I love it. From Kerrville, Texas. What part of Texas is that?
So that's right dead center in Texas. My wife and daughters go to volleyball in San Antonio. God, it feels like every day. So we're right here close.
Oh, I love San Antonio. I spent every summer of my childhood pretty much over there visiting family. It's a beautiful city. If you haven't been in San Antonio, it is one of the greatest cities of America that I think doesn't get enough attention. It's beautiful.
Well, if you've been here during the summer, you get it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, before we get started, I have a couple promos that I want to play. One is our first full-blown commercial for one of our biggest sponsors, Outdoor Link, and our editing team is just getting so gifted at creating these to help promote many of the businesses that are supporting us. So we've got quite a few strategic partners that are helping us to co-create. Outdoor Link was the first one. No, I take that back. Aaron Locks was with National Academy of Athletics, but his show is coming up right after this show. So I'll play the Outdoor Link promo and then our strategic partnership, how you can get more involved if you're a vendor. And then we'll come back and start learning all about Jay and his story.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Update digital displays in real time. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. And even run community or sponsorship campaigns on digital screens. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the Daily Parks and Rec Show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product, growing your presence in public spaces, targeting cities, counties, or departments, DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion Parks and Rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move Parks and Rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.
All right. So we're not able to do our little pre-show prep call. So we're just going to do it live here. But maybe take us back to the early days of, who you were in high school and college. Try to help us understand, what kind of person would eventually end up in Parks and Recreation.
Well, looking back at it, it was kind of going to happen no matter what. You know me for 10 minutes. I joke with people that I'm tall and that I play the drums. You knew the second part already in kind of the pre-show prep thing. So I play the drums and I'm tall. So I'm 6'7" without shoes, but with shoes,
Wow.
I just say 6'8" because the 6'7" thing drives me absolutely nuts. And I was tall growing up. Between my freshman and my sophomore years, I moved from Prescott, Arizona to Hanover, Massachusetts, which is kind of on the south shore of Boston. Mm-hmm. And between the last day of my freshman year and the first day of my sophomore year, I went from 5'9" to 6'4".
Man, you must have a lot of growing pains in your joints, popping and growing all the time. I bet you that was horrible.
It was awful, but basketball at that point, even before when I was not quite as tall, it was my life, and it was just I played 6 days a week, lifted weights, was outdoors, played a lot of flag football. I was always active, and
did you ever get burned out on any of those sports growing up?
What's that?
Did you ever get burned out on any of those sports, or did you try to diversify the types of sports you would play?
No, I played football and baseball also. So I was a 3-sport athlete up until my senior year. And it was, I kind of knew at 6'8", I did pretty well my senior year. We actually moved back from Massachusetts to Arizona where I started. Nobody recognized me when I got back. I was 6'7" at that point. And had a pretty decent year for only playing 1 year, my senior year, and went and served my church for a couple of years in Guadalajara, Mexico. I'm also fluent in Spanish.
No way. So tell me about that. That sounds like an interesting journey.
Well, I'm LDS, and everybody's had those young men or young ladies knock on their door with go out with a pair of us. And so I'm a 6'7" white guy in Mexico, speaking the language, knocking on doors and preaching the gospel. And that, I think the overall thing, I might as well say it now, I think that was kind of the start of teaching me there was a bigger world out there, and it's the less it's about you, right? The more success you have. And that has kind of been it's hard for me because, I'm a natural kind of a leader. And so you kind of make it about yourself. But I find that when I can not make it about me, it's more successful. And that's kind of been one of those overarching themes throughout my life. And it's one that I need to be reminded of constantly. And I try to remind others, honestly, so I remember it myself. In my team, even here in Kerrville, we talk about it quite a bit. It's all about what the public wants and what they need, and really focusing on them and making our work less about us and more about the public. But I think the genesis of that was to break out of where I came from. I was kind of I was actually born in Texas, but I was raised in Arizona, and leaving Arizona, I was young, everything I knew, and going and separating and going back across the country really started that, and it was solidified on that LDS mission I went on.
Yeah.
That was at the end of the 1990s, and I came back in early 2000 in January. So
what were some of the big takeaways as far as, because I know that can really help you get your ego in check, which oftentimes can get out of control. And so getting yourself way outside your comfort zones into a new culture, no different language, and then you probably stood out like a sore thumb over there.
Yeah.
So
there's no hiding. There's never hiding when you're 6'8".
Right. Any tricks of how to make it more not about yourself and to fight that egotistical thing that can creep up inside of us and dominate our lives? How are you able to kind of keep that in check?
I don't do it very well, honestly. And recognizing that and being hyper self-aware, maybe to the point of almost buffoonery in the other direction. We see so many examples of how people make it about themselves, and it just leads in a direction that does not benefit everyone. So really, I think like just being humble, right? And not being able to talk and express yourself in a language that you're learning. It's kind of baked into the cake that, you know, you have to reconfigure your mind and be super disciplined. I think that's it too. It's the discipline over time, it's the patience, and it's the perspective. Those 3 points, maybe not in that order, but they're all kind of intertwined. But discipline over time, perspective, and just, you know, having that humility to be introspective. But I think I learned Spanish really well. It's been years and years since I've learned it every day, but every time I have the opportunity, in about a day or two, it all comes back, and the tongue starts getting a little bit more loosed. So again, just putting yourself in situations where you're not super comfortable, that's a really good situation. And in all candor, there was something that I did when I came to Kerrville. I was just to kind of move into the Parks and Rec field. I was in at the city of Show Low as the community services director there, which encompassed Parks and Recreation for over a decade. And I was a grant writer there. That's how I was hired. I come from the grant writing world, and you know, that's an iterative world. You win some, you lose some, and so you kind of keep that perspective. When you're a boss and you're over Parks and Recreation, everybody has an opinion in Parks and Recreation, because everybody uses the parks. They may not know what the building blocks of running park systems is, but they've got an opinion regardless of that. So kindly being patient, right? That's one of those pillars, being patient with people and just helping them understand what goes on so that they become an ally, and, you know, don't sow acrimony online. And one of my favorite things as a director is the Parks and Rec advisory committees and the boards that we serve with. And really, I look at that as being an opportunity to build ambassadors for Parks and Recreation. And there are several. Go ahead.
So how, I know a lot of times you have very outspoken people in every community, and sometimes the illusion is that that's all the community. Turns out it's like maybe 2% of the community, and a lot of the community that uses the parks is very quiet. How do you pull that, what they want, out of them? Any tricks to doing that?
Patience. Generally, again, after the flood, and I'm sure we'll get to that here, people have just been so overwhelmingly wonderful because they see my staff out working just so hard to get things back open. And it's a labor of love in a lot of ways, where, you know, we're kind of out in the parks, and we see it as kind of this sandbox where, okay, if I get these things done, we'll be able to have this open for the community, and the community gets out there and they're moved because they haven't had the chance to heal. And again, Parks and Rec is it's the lifeblood of any community, whether or not that community wants to recognize it or not. It certainly is in Kerrville. And that's one of the biggest reasons why me and my family decided to pack up after 10 years in Arizona and come here, because it's not that it isn't a priority there, but it's such a huge priority here. And the apparatus around my position is just so many, there's so many good people. You know, how do you make an ambassador? Well, you listen, and everybody has their interest groups, and you try, here it is, you try to find a way to say yes.
Oh, I love that.
That can be difficult, and that needs to be iterated in a lot of ways through a lot of people and groups. But most good things happen because you've listened and tried to work towards a yes.
Yeah. Now, can you talk about that iterative process where, you know, maybe the first couple suggestions, we've got to tweak them and come up with a version 4 that we, you know, had to say almost halfway no to 1, 2, and 3, but 4, it looks like everybody's. Can you talk maybe about an example of that process?
Yeah, I mean, a very contemporaneous one also. So with the flooding, we had a lot of the elements of Louise Hayes Park here in Kerrville kind of get washed away. And, you know, I mean, it's been very somber, honestly, the last 6 months since the disaster happened. But quietly, we started kind of planning around some of the parts of the park that we kind of wanted to move. We don't want to rebuild it again. We kind of want to get some of the parts that maybe were not thought about. Hey, we've got some open space, we're going to do this. We don't want to build a splash pad again where we had it because it was completely destroyed. And we want to make it neater because we can go vertical outside of the floodplain. But just all of the pieces of that puzzle, it's right in the middle of town. And so everybody has an opinion, and I am so sympathetic to that. But we can't do everything, and we're not going to make all people happy at all times in certain places, but we're going to try to meet them and say, hey, we can't do this here, but we can do it here. And hey, we might not be able to do, you know, I'll use the dog park. We might not be able to redo the dog park in the way that it was before, but I promise it will be better, and it will be even cooler than it is. And I've made a lot of allies and some enemies, but I think in the long run, when they see the big picture, because that's what most people don't get. I mean, we live in this world. I don't expect them to get it. We live and marinate in this world every day, and imparting those things to the public and showing them, hey, we can't do this because of X, but we're going to do this, and it's going to be better, and it's going to be, in the long run, we're going to do it one time, and it will be out of the way. And if this, God forbid, happens again, we won't be in the same boat, because we don't want to rebuild this park again.
Now, help refresh my memory, but I do vaguely remember a city in Texas where the river just went from normal to, oh my gosh, it flooded its boundaries, and there was even some campers, I think, lost their lives. Is that the same flood that I'm thinking of? And this happened, what, less than a year ago? Or that wasn't that long ago, right? It
happened on the morning of July 4th, 2025.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Can you kind of recap and explain, you know, what happened? Because I just want to make sure that everybody gets it right.
Yeah. So I moved into town on Memorial Day of 2025. So I've been here about 6 months, and was looking forward to a day on the 4th of July, because the way it's set up, you know, there's a nonprofit that handles the big portion of all the event, and they use it as a fundraiser, and it's great. And I get a call. Gosh, I woke up at like 5:05 the morning of the 4th, and 3 or 4 missed calls that the water was coming up. And I'm thinking, okay, well, we get flood alerts a lot here, and we kind of tend to normalize those. And so we're thinking, okay, well, we had no idea what was happening upstream. But I guess between 12 and 15 inches, maybe more, fell kind of out towards Lakey, Texas. and that just clogged the north and the south forks of the Guadalupe River, and they converged. There was actually meet at Camp Mystic, which is in Hunt, Texas. And many of the little girls who were there camp were lost, and lots of other folks too. And it was much worse up there. It was, I think it was over a 500-year flood event there.
Oh my goodness.
By the time it got to us, it was about 100, maybe a little more and a little less in some places, but still catastrophic. And yeah, it was a mass casualty event, but we didn't really understand what we were up against until, I mean, that evening. We didn't know about all the casualties that had happened. And so in those early morning hours, as we're kind of figuring things out, my office right now is at Kerrville Shriner Park, which is open. But the waterfront right now, we're trying to get it reopened to the public. But here, there was no power. And I was on phone calls at about six in the morning, and I had staff who was already here. They'd already mobilized in, and they got the campers that we had at this park out, saved lives. And the benefit that we had over the folks upstream is that we had a little bit of daylight. It was 5 a.m. as opposed to 3. And, you know, we kind of knew that it was coming up. So we were able to get here and get our campers out of this park. Thank heavens.
Wow.
And yeah, but I mean, the destruction and damage that flood caused is unprecedented in anybody who's alive here's lifetime.
Wow.
And so we're rebuilding.
How much did the river rise from? Because I'm assuming this river is, I mean, they have like camps and houses just right on the river, just like any other river. And then all of a sudden it goes from, how long did it take to rise, and how high did it rise?
That's a good question. I don't know the specifics, but just again, using my brain and just kind of understanding the lay of the land. So towards Hunt, I mean, it's very narrow. The canyons are very narrow. So the water was way higher. So we're talking 50, 60 feet.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Literal wall of water.
Yeah.
As it got towards Kerrville and Center Point, it opens up a lot more. There are areas where it gets pinched, right? But by and large, you're not dealing with rock canyon walls that are very narrow. And so you're 20, 25, 30 feet at some places as you get towards Kerrville. So the water is able, you know, kind of is able to spread out and kind of come down as opposed to staying high. And it's catastrophic. They took out nearly 2 million cubic yards or something like that of debris, which is insane. I mean, that's just an unbelievable amount. To give some perspective, Hurricane Harvey, I think, was 200 cubic yards. So Harvey was way more destructive. But this was just, it was there and it was gone. And here we are, you know, myself, month in, my team is all relatively new in their positions. Some have been here for a while, but in their positions of leadership, we're, you know, pretty new. And here we are, just sweating, bleeding, crying, working hand in hand and trying to get back from what it was on July 3rd.
Wow. So, you know, we made a video about why Parks and Rec is an essential service for health and well-being and, you know, community building and culture and that kind of stuff. And one thing that kind of sits in the background is, you know, the role that Parks and Rec departments, facilities, and staff play in a crisis moment where all the programs shut down and you go into crisis response mode, and that you kind of have the staff and the facilities that are ready to go and be somewhat of a home base for emergency response people. Maybe talk about, especially after what you just went through, how important Parks and Rec departments are as an essential service and probably should not be canceled like we saw happen during COVID.
Well, Let's kind of talk a little bit about COVID too, because I think it plays into my philosophy overall, and I think the philosophy that's adopted by our city and what the expectation is from our residents, which is the most important part. During COVID, I fought tooth and nail to keep things open. Luckily, in Arizona during that time, our governor was like very openly supportive of keeping facilities open that were outdoors, like trails and playgrounds and whatnot. And so that wasn't hard to do, like at the parks. However, I was over also at that point the library. We were kind of doing curbside stuff for a while, but we were open. I think we were one of the first libraries that was open in Arizona. That library there serves our mountain community. So I like being the tip of the spear, and I kind of pride myself on, look, I'm not going to hide, right? I'm too big of a personality and too physically big to hide. We've already talked about that. So, if we're going to be open, if we can be, we're going to be. And so just so that perspective, right? Just like, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to make the most of this. I do want to say that my staff, members of my staff, before the array of public safety professionals were able to muster and get here, my staff found deceased in our parks. And that has been, I just want to recognize that before the first responders got here, they were first responders.
Right.
They were.
Yeah.
And they performed life-saving operations, as insofar as getting to this park where I'm sitting right now and evacuating people. And when our other resources here in the city were spread very, very thin for obvious reasons. And that isn't because of training, that's because of duty, and that's because of self-sacrifice, and that's because that they're a part of an organization that supports them. And I just want to say that from the onset. You cannot train for that sort of thing. You just have to hire good people. And I feel like I was following them in a lot of ways. Yeah, I was on the phone calls, I was privy to the information, but man, oh man, did I learn a lot from them. And I still do. But I was forever impressed by the people that my predecessor hired. She did an amazing job hiring wonderful people. She's a good talent scout, and saw the right people that were in the organization and stepped up. So as Parks and Rec professionals also, I think this is an important point to make. A lot of us are over pools, right? Hire lifeguards and such. My assistant director in the other office over there, over programming and events and such, she's a lifeguard. And those skills that are present in lifeguards that are trained into them, they are first responders. Yeah. And, that's important. And as a boss, I was never a lifeguard. When I get into water, I sink to the bottom. I'm very dense in a lot of ways. But I count on your people, have faith in your people, get out of their way, let them do what they do best, lead them when you can, and take all the slings and arrows for them. And, those young lifeguards who are at your pool can be your most important future employees. They're going to be very important out in the world after they are done with their employment at the city, or maybe they continue to be an assistant director. And I firmly believe that she could take my place right now. She was the interim when I was getting here. So again, just good people across the board here. It's been rough, but it would have been a lot rougher if we didn't have the right folks in the right places.
Jay, this reminds me of a conversation I had with a state park. So somebody was over a state park in Tennessee, and they were explaining to me how when a person gets lost in the woods and they're over like hundreds of thousands of acres in this big forest, that when all the outside resources come in to help them find that person, they go directly to the person that just knows the land, and they're kind of like their local guide. And I know in a similar way, imagine you've got all of Texas and America showing up with people to help, but they don't know where anything is. They don't know the lay of the land. They don't know the structures and the people and the roads and stuff. And so maybe is there anything to be said about the role that y'all played in organizing the efforts as being like the local guides?
So again, at this park, this was a Texas Parks and Wildlife pay for, kind of a KOA type park. And so it was given to the city by the state of Texas in the early 2000s. And we closed this thing down immediately. And we're like, hey, all you guys who have big rigs and need to come in here and hang out and have a place to stay, we have a really nice rec hall down here. Opened it up. It's got fridges, freezers, wash basins, restrooms, all the things. So again, over at Lehman Monroe Park, at Louise Hayes Park, they're kind of sandwiched together, and the bridge is the divisory line. But in Lehman Monroe, we have a big pavilion, and state agencies, federal agencies set up shop underneath that pavilion for a couple months. My office was there for a couple months. I just hotspotted to my iPad with my phone. Again, and I was there. I was present. My staff was around. They were present. We just kind of did this. We kind of come together and then go out and do our separate things. And so just having the flexibility to be outside, and you've got to be able to roll with punches and get things done on the fly and work with your state agencies. Now, I hadn't had the opportunity to have those relationships developed with those state agencies yet. I mean, I had been here for 4 weeks. Right. But I tell you what, when I made a call to these state agencies that were here, these federal agencies, or I would have my bosses, interface with maybe people higher up. Most of the time it didn't get to that. I was able to interface with people on the ground, and we were like, let's go. Yeah. And it's just that can-do attitude and not sitting back and waiting. Yeah. Sometimes you do have to wait, but other times it's like, I'm going to make this happen. This, no one else knows about this. I don't want to encumber anybody else with this project. I'm going to take it on, and off we go.
Yeah.
And then that's the kind of person that the city of Kerrville hired in me. And sometimes I'm just like a big dumb dog, just running around. Yeah. But most of the time, I'll kind of just back up and say, okay, this problem needs addressing right now. This problem can wait. That problem can go on the back burner. Off we go. And so in a disaster, the local people are wildly important, irrespective of the equipment that we do or don't have, or the understanding that we do or don't have, because people look to us to say, hey, I need to stage somewhere. Okay, I got 3 options for you. Which would you like?
Yeah.
And even a month in, my staff knew, I knew, and off we went. So it's just being a professional in the parks and recreation field for over a decade now. You learn how to roll, and you're kind of the guy, the guy that people look to, the gal in the next office, they look to her for leadership. And you got to be willing to step up. And I don't think that's a problem for anybody who would be in my shoes. I'm not unique in that way.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you've seen the video. I kind of choose the videos that I'd like to play at the halfway point. And so I definitely want to play the video we made as a gift to the Parks and Rec community about why Parks and Rec should be considered an essential service, because I'd love to get your take on it. And by the way, if you want to play this entire episode for elected officials if they ever question whether you should get funding in Parks and Rec, not just because of our little promo video, but Jay's entire testimony as to what this Parks and Rec department did for its community. So I'll play that, and then right after, I'm going to play the other unsung heroes of the facility maintenance crews, which I know are indispensable.
My gosh, those guys are important.
Right. So I'll play both of those, and I'd love to get your take on each of those. So play that, and we'll come right back.
When we talk about essential services, what comes to mind? Police, firefighters, healthcare. But there's another essential service, often overlooked, yet always present. Parks and recreation. Parks and Rec is health. It's the walking trail that lowers blood pressure, the recreation center where seniors fight isolation, the swim lessons that prevent tragedy before it happens. This isn't a luxury, it's a lifeline. Parks and Rec is safety. A playground instead of a street corner, a basketball court instead of trouble, a summer camp where every child belongs. It's not just about activity, it's about protection, prevention, and possibility. Parks and Rec is community, the festival that brings neighbors together, the cultural event that teaches respect and diversity, the open space where a city breathes. It builds bridges where division once stood. It gives people a reason to gather, to connect, to care. And Parks and Rec is economics. It strengthens property values. It drives tourism through events and trails. It saves on healthcare costs. Every dollar invested multiplies, feeding back into schools, into safety, into growth. Essential service is not just about survival, it's about thriving. And Parks and Recreation is where thriving begins. In wellness, in equity, in culture, and in joy. Parks and Rec isn't extra, it's essential. For our health, for our safety, for our communities, for our future. A message from the Parks and Recreation community. Behind every thriving park, every safe playground, every event-ready field, there's a team working before sunrise and long after sunset. This is Facility Maintenance, the only show created for and by the unsung heroes of Parks and Recreation. Brought to you by DPRS Media Co., where real work gets real recognition. From restrooms to rec centers, HVAC to turf tech, we go beyond the job site into the heart of operations that keep our communities moving. Our mission? To elevate maintenance teams through stories, solutions, and shared experience. Our vision? A world where every facility crew is seen, valued, and fully supported. Each episode features operators, innovators, and leaders, sharing tools, tech, and tactics that make the impossible look easy. Facility maintenance isn't just a job. It's purpose, it's passion, and now it's a show. Facility Maintenance, where tools meet purpose, where work becomes legacy.
All right. So in light of the first one, the first video I showed you, imagine, Jay, you're sitting in front of a council of a different city across America, and they flew you in to pitch why you need to fund this local Parks and Rec department. What's your testimony to this council?
Well, that's good. I need to think about that a little bit. Luckily I don't have to think about it much here because it's pretty obvious how important it is.
Right.
Whether we like it or not, we all commune in our public spaces. I'm thinking back to when I was a kid, the Easter egg hunts that I won the colored marker set when I was a little boy from finding the golden egg. That was on city of Prescott, Arizona land that was funded by the taxpayer and maintained by the taxpayer. I think of all of the city facilities that we used in my family reunions. Those were all city funded areas. I remember playing basketball at the park in Massachusetts, where I was playing against kids in university that set up the rest of my life as a coach, as a mentor, as a dad. We need these public spaces to be they are sacrosanct in our lives. And I love that video that talks about the economic development element. I think that's becoming more and more part of the considerations in budget discussions with cities. But and I love my public works brothers, I do. But people don't move to places because the streets are good. They just don't. They
Yeah,
move to
New Orleans
places.
is a great example of that.
What's that?
I said New Orleans is a great example of that.
I've heard your roads are terrible.
They
That's
are the
like,
worst on earth.
I don't know. I don't know why, but that's pretty commonly talked about. But
We live on a swamp. We live in a swamp that has no foundation. We pretty much put roads on top of mud, and so they do have their hands full from an engineering standpoint. But you're right. People move here for the culture and the community, and the park systems are massively used here. They're certainly not moving to New Orleans for our great infrastructure.
Right.
But yeah, continue.
You know, I think that's the most important thing. And I remember one of my staff members said that at a meeting in Arizona, and I thought that's the perfect reduction. I'm a simple guy. Big idea. Soul or brevity is the soul of wit, right? If it's a short, pithy statement that is impactful, that's what you want. And people don't move to areas because of the roads and the nice ribbon curve, right? They move to areas and they recreate in areas where the public spaces are well maintained and taken care of, because that's where you see what is important to a community. And I think I've got a little bit of credibility in that, but if that governing body can't sense that, it's going to be up to the citizens to, during the next election, take care of that. So I inherited unbelievable parks, and we're well on the way to getting back to what we were at and better. We do want to. We are reimagining things. We had a couple parks lost. This park down here, our beachfront at Kerrville Shriner Park, is slated to be redone by our TRAPS, our Texas Parks and Recreation group. We're planning a big project to kind of rehab the area down here that was really, this area at this park was really hit hard. There were debris piles even before they started stacking 30 and 40 feet high. It's just kind of an area where it opens up even more. And so there were deposits of houses, parts of homes. And I do want to share a couple things about this park specifically, and just how good the facilities maintenance and how important they are, because you showed that video. And I've talked a lot about how important Parks and Recreation is on a whole, but I do want to echo that parks and facilities maintenance. Before we really knew, Craig, what was going on in the mass casualty event that we were dealing with, so at about 8 o'clock, I just got in my truck after a phone call, and I invited my son to come with me, just to kind of come and check on the sites and whatnot. I knew my staff was already here, but he got in the truck with me and we came directly to this park. And there were people here, like people walking. I'm not going to kick them out. I mean, we didn't know. And so the water is going down, but it's still really high. And I said, hey, my son's name is William. He's a 16-year-old kid. He gets his phone out and starts recording. And, it takes a bunch of videos. We put all of those videos and pictures in like a Google Drive file. And, just that was our first instinct, was to put them there. Well, later, as we were kind of establishing a timeline for our leaders, just kind of what our response was, right? We were looking at that video, and he was standing right here. Okay. And we were both looking at it on this screen where I'm looking at you. And as my son is going around and showing, this is 2 weeks after, 3 weeks after, I'm showing him this down in our park, and he just gets rigid and white, just turns white. And I stopped the video and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And he tells me that about 30 minutes after we left that they had found someone right there,
Mm-hmm.
right where my son was videoing. Luckily, I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
And my son didn't know anything about that. And we didn't catch anything in the video. But what these guys, what my maintenance guys and my other assistant director was exposed to at that time is the real heroic stuff.
Mm.
They wanted to take care of those things so that their staff and other members of the community didn't see the carnage of what happened and the terrible things that happened. Just so kudos to them. They are the best in some. I don't understand really why the directors and stuff get paid more than them. I will say that openly. It's kind of backwards in my opinion. But they are the real heroes, and God bless them, especially mine, but all of them that take care of these spaces for the community.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people realize that the sheer magnitude of maintaining and building the entire Parks and Rec system of America and the manpower that it takes and the money spent. It's by many people's calculations, it's easily half of all the money and manpower goes into maintaining these facilities. And I don't even know if that includes all the special events that they set up for day of and tear down. You know, every little Easter egg hunt, you've got an army of people setting for this thing up, working the actual thing and then tearing it down afterwards. I mean, there's so much that goes on the maintenance side. It's not just cutting grass and blowing off sidewalks, even though that's kind of what they think it is. It's way more than that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now, is there anything, since this is the leadership series and we just went through that entire event, that tragic event that y'all had, maybe what are some leadership lessons that you learned, maybe even things you would have, in hindsight, could have done a little bit better, or kind of what are the things you really leaned on within yourself as a leader to get you through those tough moments?
We all leaned on each other, and servant leadership is something that is embraced here. I mean, there's not a single phone call or interaction that I have with my boss or with the city manager where they don't ask me, "Are you okay? What, do you need anything?" Mm-hmm. And that has not been, it's not that it wasn't wonderful where I came from, but that's something that I need to do better at. I truly do care for my people, and I think they trust me. But that's something I cannot ever take for granted. And a lot of times we can feel as directors, we can feel like, we're kind of in our own mode. I don't have time to micromanage people, but that can also lead to maybe being a bit aloof. And so, asking questions, being present, taking those moments on Friday nights or maybe Saturdays or Sundays when there are events happening, and just maybe not being there to labor with them. I've been there too. I do that too, but just showing up and saying hello, it yields a lot of fruit in caring about the young professionals who are, maybe just out of school and are cutting their teeth in this profession. When I retire, they're going to be me. Yeah. Right. They're going to be who takes my place. They're going to be the future leaders. So you have to invest in them, and they have to understand that you care about them. You care about their development. You care about their well-being right now, because let's face it, it's extraordinarily difficult for young professionals who are working their tails off to live with the wages that they're making, what the market is giving them with the inflation going up. It's absurd in a lot of ways. And so, taking it upon yourself to find ways to help and maybe ease that burden a little bit. I mean, you and me can't control what happens in Washington. I wish I'd never had to think about what happens in Washington, in all honesty, but we do. And because we have to be focused here. I'm way more focused, down the hall with the professionals that we have here than I am with what's going on in Washington, D.C. I may pay that a little bit of mind, but I need to be more more adapted to listening to my people here and finding
Yeah.
out what they're dealing with and how we can help them.
I think a lot of times we can get lost in the importance of our local mission, serving the community, being there for them, having that servant leadership, that servant mind, and we forget about investing in ourselves. And so are there any tricks that you've done to really spot, hey, I appreciate the hard work you're doing for everyone else, but I really want you to start investing in yourself so that your skill is growing and you're getting better? And what are the opportunities that you kind of see out there for young professionals to grow in their skill set?
I never turn down an opportunity for them to go and get training, ever. I mean, unless and they don't bring anything that is not germane to their positions to me, but even if it's not, that was something that was afforded to me. My previous boss was wonderful, but I had a boss who we were too similar. And so we butted heads a lot. I mean, both of us are extraordinarily stubborn. And he was, a city manager for years and years, but he taught me some good lessons with a hammer that may have been able to be taught with a scalpel. But one of the ones that he did teach and he was very open with is to get training. And, growing your network is important. Hearing how different people solve different problems and, just becoming a more comprehensive professional. He never said no to that. And so I have adopted that into my, leadership deck of cards. When anybody plays, hey, I want to go get the card of, hey, I want to go get some more training. Please, if it's budgeted, let's go. If you can get a grant for it or a scholarship, fine. If I can give up some of my training money for you to go and do that, if you don't have training money for it, let's do it. One of the first things I did here, Craig, and it's crazy how much it would have helped. I was shocked to find out the arborist situation in Kerrville, like on staff. We don't have a certified arborist on staff. I need 3 of them, and I'm going to be one. I'm going to go do it.
Wow.
Along with the other ones, we need to have it kind of spread out throughout the system. But how important are the trees? They're extraordinarily important in every single community, especially this one. I came from the northeast of Arizona, where I just came back from elk hunting with one of my assistant directors, and we had a great time. But trees, they are very important. Trees here are very important. The tree cover in any community is very important. And so in order to be a good steward of those things, again, thinking, hey, we need to have arborists on staff. So again, just kind of leading by example and showing these folks, hey, I'm not above going and getting a certification. I'm 12 years from retirement. I'm going to go get a certification that I've never had because it's important to me. And I want you to think about that too, and encouraging them to do that.
And then it also helps them. It's easier to pay someone a little more when they have a list of certifications that makes them exceptional.
Bingo.
And so if you want to combat the inflation, you can start with increasing your value in the market, because the more valuable you are because of the knowledge that you wield in that market, then of course they can afford to pay you more. And it's easier to go fight for those dollars for someone that's, would be more expensive in another community. And you're right, man, the tree canopies and what I've actually had several master arborists on the show, and I learned I am a fan of trees, especially living in New Orleans. This is pretty much a shaded city. Every pretty much square inch is shaded. But I had no idea the sheer level of mastery that goes into what it takes to be a master arborist and what they learn about pruning and planting and caring for tens of thousands of trees in every city. We did several shows. I think we had about 6 different shows just on trees.
I'm going to make this statement, and maybe this can be clippable and you guys can put this on YouTube, but you young parks and recreation professionals and you guys who are getting into the maintenance field, you want to instantly make yourself more marketable and instantly have an effect and be a leader in the community where you want to work or could possibly work in the future. Be an arborist.
Yeah, and there's really great associations. And actually, heck, I think most of the arborists I spoke to were from Texas. So y'all have
Probably
a
worked
very
with some of them during this whole
yeah
thing. I tell you what, one of the cool things about, I kind of alluded to it before, but just working with seeing a problem, right? Recognizing a problem and then just going and doing. And maybe it's clumsy, but during a disaster, there's nobody else to do it. They're all working on things and putting fires out. One of the things that we saw, because, some of these guys, these contractors who get these contracts to help with debris removal, they get paid by the pound. And so maybe some trees that shouldn't be cut down get cut down. And that was something that this community, oh man, and myself, I mean, I didn't want to see any tree fall that didn't need to fall. If there was a chance that it was going to come back, we wanted to give it a chance. If it dies, whatever, we'll go cut it down or let it fall, and it'll become part of the ecosystem. But we went out with the Texas Department of Forestry out of A&M, and they called me probably 3 or 4 days after, and we kind of developed plans like, hey, you're going to go mark every tree that you think is going to survive or has a chance of surviving, so that, the guys coming downriver doing the debris removal, once that contract is signed, so they don't just clear cut things.
Yeah.
And we were able to save, 2,500 trees from getting cut down, which is, I wish it were more, but man, 2,500 trees is pretty darn good. So that was just quick acting, organizing, developing a plan, and making sure, hey, don't mark the trees that are marked in blue in, that paint that goes away after some rains. So that was one thing that me and my team, that took about 3 or 4 days to do. Knew we were on the next thing, but that was extremely important. You think about the time investment of 3 or 4 days of my time and my staff's time, and the 300 years it takes to grow a tree that has been maybe errantly cut down. That's a good investment. That's a good time investment. So again, it's thinking that way and just kind of being decisive and going for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, just to run a little bit of math there, I remember when I was digging deep into what it takes to choose a tree, to buy a tree, to plant a tree, to care for it in that first year. It's nothing for a city to spend $5,000 on a tree located. At times 2,500, you're looking at 12.5 million. If y'all save 2,500 trees times 5,000, I'd say that's a good investment of your couple of days to go say, don't chop this one down.
That's right. That's right. So anyway, that's actually good. I hadn't run the math.
That's it.
That's in my resume. Thank you, partner.
That's right. Save the city.
I saved the city 12 million. How many ever $1 million?
And what you're getting is like a little 8-inch tree. You're not getting some massive 3-4 foot wide tree.
Well, and think about that problem, Craig, because we have a lot of wildlife in the riverway that was displaced, and their homes are gone. And so you go planting trees there, little ones, what happens?
Yeah.
They get eaten, right? Because everything is gone. All their food is gone. So they eat those little trees. So it's a really big problem. And, when you start thinking through these problems like an arborist, you can be more dangerous and more marketable. So you young, ambitious folks, become an arborist. Boy, I need to be paid by the arborist lobby.
Yeah, they need all the help we can get. They can get. They're having trouble finding people, but I think the maintenance teams of Parks and Rec is a massive population compared to the master arborist population that they could be getting certified. And really, all it is just taking the time to educate yourself.
That's right.
And every city in America needs it. Man, I feel like we've already come to the end of the show and we've barely scratched the surface, so we may have to do this again.
Let's do it.
Yesterday I interviewed this was a great episode yesterday, Patrick Larkin out in Cordova Rec Park District, right outside of Sacramento, California. So he left you a question. We have a little tradition where they'll leave the next guest a question, and then you'll have to think of a question you can leave for my following guest or tomorrow. But the question Patrick left you was, he must have known you were coming on. What type of leadership training are you doing for your team? That was the question he left you.
So the biggest thing that I can do as a leader is model this, and this has kind of been the theme of my tenure here, because it's such a good lesson for me, because I need it every day, is make it not about yourself. Make your job not about yourself. And paradoxically, the more you don't make it about yourself, the more success you will have. And that is such a big picture principle that it may take a while to really remember it, but I hammer it home.
Yeah.
And that is that is something that it comes up all the time. Maybe it's one of those things where if you buy a green Toyota Celica, you see more of them on the road. Maybe it's one of those sorts of things. But again, in a lot of problems in life, I mean, not just Parks and Rec problems, but a lot of problems in life, you see people they get emotional when you get emotional when you make it about you. And if you can keep your emotions, like my assistant director did when she came here and did her job, it wasn't about her that day. But I look at her and I'm like, I just admire the crap out of that. That's what we want. That's what leadership is. You just do it because it's not about you. It's about everybody else.
Yeah.
And paradoxically, they think, man, that's such an amazing quality. And it's an amazing quality because it's so hard to master. So don't make it about you.
Yeah. And just to add to what you said, I mean, even if it's just a numbers game, if all you're trying to do is feed yourself, mathematically, that's way easier than trying to feed 100 or 1,000 people. But inside of you is the potential to be able to serve thousands of people. And here you are just worried about serving one. And so you end up paying the price by being a much smaller person. So like you said, learn to serve others. That's going to stretch you, and you'll start to understand your capacity a lot better than if all you're trying to do is serve yourself.
You said that so much better than me. Why do you ask me that question, man?
Well, I am reading this Michael Singer book called The Untethered Soul. I'm sure he's saying that message somewhere in there.
Well, that was beautiful. And send me, if you can, and just kind of your show notes, your wrap up, send me that. I'd like to read that.
Yeah, actually send me your address. I'll send you I bought, you see those little blue books right there? I've got like a whole, I bought the book is so powerful. I bought a bunch of copies. I would love to send you one. If you send me your mailing address, I'll mail you one.
Well, was that the number you called me at earlier?
Yeah. Or you can send it to me on LinkedIn, but yeah, or the number I
I'll
sent
do
you.
that. I'll do that.
All right. So what question would you like to leave for my next guest?
That's a good one. Again, what would be one that I would like to be asked? What advice, and this has been one of my, we've talked about it a little bit here, would be, what is some advice you have for the younger you, and also for some of the younger professionals on your team?
I love that one. Yeah. And actually today, when we first started the Daily Parks and Rec show, it was all about the leaders. This is the flagship show. So that's been running the longest, 4 days a week. And when I would ask people like yourself, is there another community aside from the directors and superintendents and assistant directors? They're like, well, you should make a show for YPN. And I'm like, what's YPN? And that's our Young Professionals Network. And so that was like the second show we made, was the Young Professionals. And we just recently got 2 interns from Pennsylvania. I pushed the whole show into their hands. And the first thing they did was, can we not host this show on Friday? Because college kids are never going to show up for a Friday show. So they moved it to today at 5 p.m. after class time is over. And so that's been one of my most favorite shows to help out, because it really is the next generation of leaders coming up the ranks that's going to replace.
It's so important.
Yeah. Well, man, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. We definitely need to do this again and cover. I've got so many other questions now that I feel like I've officially interviewed you. I've got a lot of follow-up questions. So I'll send you a link and we can get that booked.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to do it. Thank you, Craig. Appreciate you.
Yep.
Merry Christmas.
Appreciate all the hard work you're doing for a community, man. Yep. Merry Christmas. Take care. Bye. All right. Wow. What a powerful, I had no idea that Jay was in charge of that community over in Kerrville, Texas that went through all of that. But as he started to talk about it, I'm like, wait, that's the one that got all those massive floods and those people lost their lives. And so many times we talk about the importance of Parks and Rec, in building the community and those safe spaces and that kind of stuff. But I think we're not talking enough about the emergency response during a tragedy like his community faced, and the importance that they are to getting a community back on their feet. And so I'm so glad that we recorded that episode, or today's episode, with Jay over in Kerrville, Texas, because this is just a great example of a story and content you can play in front of your elected officials and say, hey, we're not just about Easter egg hunts, and we're not just about cutting grass and swimming pools. And those things are very important to a community. But when disaster inevitably strikes a community, whether it be a fire, a wildfire, a hurricane, an earthquake, a flood, and over in Louisiana, we're no stranger to hurricanes showing up on our doorstep every year. It's the Parks and Rec communities are the local natives that organize all the emergency response professionals coming from outside the community, from all over the country, and have no idea the lay of the land. They don't have the keys to the facility. They don't know how to help organize. And Parks and Rec professionals they basically take off the Parks and Rec hat and go into Parks and Rec emergency response team. And those maintenance professionals become like, imagine you've got these local guides that can just walk you through their community, point you to the problems, set people up, get people bathrooms, electricity, and that kind of stuff when all these emergency response professionals are showing up. And so that is such a vital role that we want to make sure is well funded throughout the year, because every community center automatically doubles as an emergency response center. It's kind of like a muster point for all these resources coming in from outside the community. And I remember having a very similar conversation with someone that went through a terrible tornado that hit their community, and how his department helped organize all the other neighboring Parks and Rec departments and helpers as they would come in to get his community back on his feet. So, man, what a great episode. Jay, thank you so much for your leadership and for sharing your story with us. What a powerful, powerful episode that was. Okay, so in a few minutes, let me see, in about 21 minutes to be exact, we have our Youth Sports Mastery Show with our very talented host, Aaron Locks, with the National Academy of Athletics. And he always has some of the best speakers in youth sports across America, whether in coaching, athletic directors, referees, you name it. So that show is a regular Thursday show, 1:30 p.m. Eastern every Thursday. Don't miss the Youth Sports Mastery Show with host Aaron Locks. And if you can support his unbelievable company, the National Academy of Athletics just does such a great job partnering with cities across America to help run so much. They'll run like after school care. They will run your flag football leagues. They'll run soccer leagues. They'll take the whole thing and run it turnkey. But Aaron's got 40 years in youth sports, and I think it's just a treasure. And I'm so glad that we get to co-create content with him, because he brings unbelievable guests and content to the Daily Parks and Rec show. So I really appreciate him. And then at 5 p.m. every Thursday, 5 p.m., we have shifted gears, and our very talented interns, college interns, both from Pennsylvania, Aiden Tierney and Michael Moreau, are running the Young Professionals Network show every Thursday, 5 p.m. So that'll be also today, 3 shows in one day. So let me go ahead and play the promo for both of those, and then we'll go ahead and close it out and get ready for the Youth Sports Mastery Show. But awesome job, Jay. Keep it up. Love you. Love all the Parks and Rec professionals that got us through this year, and I'll see y'all again here shortly. Thanks. Bye.
On the Daily Parks and Rec Show, we bring you the real stories of tomorrow's professionals, people shaping the future, one idea at a time. Meet the very first DPRS interns to officially host their own segment, Aidan Tierney and Michael Morrow. With curiosity, passion, and a fresh perspective, they're stepping into the spotlight to lead meaningful conversations with today's rising leaders. The Young Professionals Network takes you inside the journeys, challenges, and major wins of young individuals making their mark across industries. From first jobs to bold ventures, every story fuels growth, ambition, and innovation. Each episode brings real conversations, fresh perspectives, and impactful insights created to motivate the next generation of professionals. Whether you're just starting out, exploring new paths, or figuring out your next move, tune in to the Young Professionals Network every Thursday at 5 p.m. only on the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Don't miss it, because your next big idea might be one story away.
They say it's just rec. Just rec, where kids learn to try again. Just rec, where confidence begins. Where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec. It's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs, we're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.